We are back. It's the Joe Holka Show presented by FanDuel. Locks of the week, position by position. These are guys that we have to have exposure to in NFL Week 10, bringing it all together at the end as we try and build the optimal DFS lineup live. Quarterback, we got Justin Herbert. He's 8K against Minnesota. We got Dak Prescott, 8,100 against Atlanta. So both of these guys around that same price point. But man, these are two guys that we've been all over so far this week. I'm curious your thoughts on Justin Herbert specifically first.
Yeah, really, I would love to do some Josh Allen and bounce back game against the Jets. That's the price is just so up there, but I haven't built the lineup yet. I haven't even started this week for you, so we can go completely from scratch. But really what it comes down to is Justin Herbert, and we might as well, I know you kind of want to, you save wide receivers, but we'll get one of the wide receivers into this conversation is Mike Williams, because I feel like this is going to be a smash game for a lot of people, but that's why it's a lock game, because it should. There's no question this should hit. The biggest thing about it, I think it was Ian Hart. It's somebody on the PFF side of things earlier this week was tweeting about it and said that if you take the secondary for the Vikings, the highest PFF grade of anybody is 84. 84 out of 128 because Patrick Peterson's hurt. So I think Patrick Peterson was only in the 60s or something like that too. It's just the secondary is trash. And we just saw, a couple weeks ago, the Cowboys and Dak and what they did to them, all three of them, including Cedric Wilson, I believe, had a pretty big game in that too. And then last week, we just saw what Marquise Brown did, even in a game which wasn't as much as we expected, and he still did that. So it really comes down to Herbert and Williams if you're going for the stack. And that's why I'm going Williams, because I think a lot of people are going to be on Kenny Golladay. Kenny Golladay is actually the best, but he's the better bet. That being like if you want to put where your odds are. But to differentiate a little bit, because people are going to be on this game, if I am going Herbert and I am going on the stack in this game, and I would bring it back with Justin Jefferson, I can, but now we've already spent a ton of money on three players. But if I'm doing it, I will go with Williams because one, he's cheaper. Two, he's been on a pretty kind of a lull for a couple weeks here, and I think that he bounces back as well this week.
Yeah, I guess my question about him, how much do you think that the injury has affected his production with this? Because Reeves talking through a little bit of obviously he's been through some tough matchups for how he's played, how he's being used, right? So it's always really tough against Philly. They don't give up anything deep. Minnesota's, I'm on your side, by the way, because Minnesota is the opposite of that. Especially to perimeter wide receivers, they just give it up like crazy. But do you think that the injury has had anything to do with his lack of production? Because now the price is just amazing. 6,900 is great.
Yes, I've made the joke a couple times if anybody's been watching my videos, and I even said that Mike Williams' theme song should be the "Let the Bodies Hit the Floor," but that's just what it is. A joke. Honestly, he's done a little bit better job this year, but Marvin Harrison, those kind of wide receivers, somebody should coach him up on how to just save his body because he lets it happen to himself. He throws his body around like he just doesn't care. And honestly, if he didn't and could stay healthy, and we got 100% Mike Williams, what we saw earlier this year, no, I don't think the overreaction was there. The top 5 wide receiver in the NFL, that was a little bit of a reaction. The innate talent, you could argue he's probably top 10. And if you did watch the past couple weeks, yes, there was, especially the 2 weeks prior to last, he looked about 90%. So, I think he's getting back to it. I do think injuries were a factor, but yeah, some drowning pool. Let the bodies hit the floor. Can you throw that on here? No, you'll get tagged on YouTube if I sing anything.
Yeah, dude, they will literally take your video down. It's aggressive. It's almost been as aggressive as FanDuel has been with this price, man. Because it was one point where he was all the way up there with Devontae Adams and those guys very quickly, and then now he's all the way back down with Adam Thielen and some of those other guys that were a couple tiers down. So he's basically been going back and forth, which is, kind of nice because I think this is a great buying opportunity, and he's at least right now about sub 10% ownership. So I like the Mike Williams call a lot. What about Dak at quarterback? If we're not going Justin Herbert, Dak against Atlanta. Last week was not great, but it does seem like a pretty decent bounce back opportunity.
Yeah, for my adjusted points allowed over the Athletic, the Atlanta is 3rd this week, only behind Washington and Kansas City for quarterbacks and adjusted points allowed. It's one of the best matchups on paper. We've seen Atlanta exposed this entire year. This is another one. If you watched last week's game, Dak looked like he came back and was kind of not forcing the issue, but playing through an injury. There's no question about it. He didn't look 100%. Saved his day, not everybody else's, because he threw those 2 touchdowns to Malik Turner and made everybody pissed off. But let's be honest, it wasn't just Dak. CeeDee Lamb had rolled his ankle. Amari Cooper was the hamstring or whatever it was not 100%. Like, it was just injury after injury after injury for the Cowboys last week, and it seemed like the entire team was playing about 90%. So really, that's what it comes down to. I'm looking at the fact that Dak Prescott, similar to Mike Williams, back to 100% in a great matchup for him to get out there and back to being Dak, honestly. And he's got Gallup too. So now you just throw another weapon back into his arsenal.
Yeah, I love the idea of going back to Dak this week because I think that people are probably going to be going to Zeke in this spot, but we have so many good running back plays at the top end that I don't think you necessarily have to go to Zeke. So if we're going to move on to our running back locks of the week, Jake, we're giving people permission to play Christian McCaffrey, I guess. He's 9K at Arizona. I mean, I love the idea, but I want to hear what you think about it first.
That's a really, you just said it. Arizona. Attack Arizona anytime you can on the ground with anybody. And that's what I'm just saying. Like, with Arizona is one of the first matchups I look for often because not only do they push the pace, but they give up a ton after contact and a bunch of big plays. I love targeting running backs with them. But it comes down to also is if Christian McCaffrey is back to 100%, and a lot of people getting back to 100% on this theme of this show so far, and he's going to be at this price point. That's all really. I just wanted to bring up Christian McCaffrey for you to give permission, and the fact that he's not 10,000 and Christian McCaffrey is like, look at the fact that he finished 13th or 14th last week in his first game back with like
29
90%
snaps
of the workload.
Yeah, he literally played 29 snaps, had 14 rush attempts and 5 targets. So I mean, if that is something that's like, if they're easing him back in, but he's still that big of a factor, like he's way too cheap. So I think this is the week where I'm willing to like jump back on the train for sure.
And I'm not worried about PJ Walker. Honestly, I think PJ Walker could be better for this offense than Sam Darnold was at this point.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess we have Cam Newton signed there. I guess earlier today. Did you see that?
Yeah, he's not playing this week though. But yeah,
okay.
I did.
There you go.
Yeah, it's PJ Walker for at least 1 week.
Let's talk about the actual lock of the week at running back, Ernest Johnson. He's 5,400 at New England. We saw what this guy was able to do with a full workload before. And honestly, like I hate it, Jake. I hate this free square talk, but man, this is as close as it gets.
It is, and this is obviously, I wanted to include this so we had the conversation because I know people would have asked. It's really the fact that if Nick Chubb is out. Right. And honestly, if Nick Chubb is out, still he might be the first person to pull I got COVID and I cleared before Sunday, and he's still, because he has the vax, so he can clear twice, but nobody's done it yet. So I don't know why nobody's done it yet, but maybe it's just that the symptoms don't feel great for these players and say why push him out there with like flu-like symptoms. But that being said, the interesting thing is that Nick Chubb, even last week, didn't get over 60% of the snaps. But when Nick Chubb was sidelined and Kareem Hunt was out, in that game with Felton and with Jake Funk, who are both not in this game this week, Ernest Johnson still out there over 80%. It's so weird that the Browns do this, is that they won't turn to Chubb for 80%, but if Chubb is out, Ernest Johnson gets 80%. So really, it comes down to something, I'm chasing volume. If you give me most running backs 80% of the touches, I'm going to have some appeal, let alone one that we've already seen perform as a top 10 running back, let alone one that is on the Browns offense at this price point. And I'm not expecting it to be as great as it was on Thursday, but just so you know, in my seasonal, if there is no Nick Chubb, Ernest Johnson would be inside my top 12 as an RB1, as in the mix with DeAndre Swift, as crazy that might sound.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think it sounds crazy, but if you like volume, Jake, I know that like Najee Harris, he fits that bill, right? He's at least 22 rush attempts in 4 straight games. He's obviously being used in the passing game because Ben can't throw down the field. This team just continues to have injuries. Like now we have Claypool out for multiple weeks, and I don't. There's really not a lot of bad things to say about Najee. He's probably like a top 5 pick if we were redrafting today, right? Like pretty close.
I would say there's no question about it. It'd be a top 5 pick because you have no Derrick Henry now, and then the Kamara situation keeps getting mad. By the way, I did want to bring up that too, is if there's no Kamara, another free square, Mark Ingram. But you're gonna have to differentiate a lot. You could easily have Ernest Johnson and Mark Ingram in your lineups come Sunday, and I'd be hard to get away from either one of them, because if there's no Kamara, I don't know how you don't play Mark Ingram. If there is no Nick Chubb, I don't know how you don't play Ernest Johnson. Like, that's one of those things where it's kind of like, I know you said you hate the free squares, but getting too cute to go off of them because their prices, if it was already, these are guys like, we'll go say Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and Nick Chubb goes down and Kareem Hunt's price is already like 6,800. So he's already in that's where you can make the argument to say, okay, fine, you could find a pivot and maybe you're not with the crowd, but Mark Ingram would be back in. I'm probably going to have to send you a lineup Sunday morning and hopefully you see it, because if they're both out, they're both going to be in my lineup, both of them. I would love, and that actually might get you to Najee Harris. And that's the thing, is Najee Harris the most expensive on the board. I love Deontay Johnson too. This guy has been out there averaging 9 targets per game, even with the down game that they had. And if you take that one out, it's double digits. I mean, look at how many double-digit target games he has. And that's before losing Claypool. And that was when Juju Smith-Schuster was in the mix at the beginning of the year. So Deontay and Harris is essentially the reason he'd be a top 5 pick is because he's Christian McCaffrey at this point. He's seen multiple targets every single week. Now he's not McCaffrey putting up quite as many yards, but you're going to give me an average of 5 or 6 targets per week on top of somebody who runs the ball 16, 17, 18 times every single week. So you're going to give me 24 to 25 touches and it's Najee Harris. Yeah. If you can find a way to get up to him, and that's probably how you're going to have to do it, is do like a Johnson Ingram and hope that happens.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning of the year, we were talking about how this offensive line was a really big problem, but I mean, it's in some ways, it's just led to more usage of the passing game, a lot of things, right? So.
Remember, don't put that on me. Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. I told everybody people were stupid worry about this offensive line. So make that clear.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we move on, I want everyone to remember to go subscribe on all major podcast platforms. One of those things that's not easy to build up, so I would appreciate your support. Jake, your wide receiver locks of the week. We already talked about Mike Williams. There is one more guy that we're going to discuss today at the wide receiver position. It's Mike Evans. He's 7,400 at Washington. I mean, these Tampa Bay guys are in an amazing spot. Still, I mean, some injuries there too, so it's a little bit more condensed. We're not going to have that luxury for much longer with Gronk and Antonio Brown coming back. So I'm smashing Mike Evans this week, right?
That's even if Godwin's out there. I was going to smash Mike Evans and Godwin both, and maybe even see if you could do a Tom Brady lineup. But yeah, if Chris Godwin's out on top of it, this is another one. Now this one, because he's 7,400, this is what you're going to have to do. Like, and I got to throw this out there. He's a lock because he should smash, no matter if it's Godwin, no matter if it's not. I mean, honestly, he might put up another hat trick of touchdowns if there is no Godwin against the Washington secondary. There's no question about it. So the only thing you're hoping for in a pivot is that if Mike Evans at 7,400, you move off of him and just hope that they blow him out, they blow the doors off of him, and maybe one of them goes to Tyler Johnson, and then one of them goes to O.J. Howard, and Leonard Fournette runs in 2 touchdowns, and Tom Brady just has a mediocre day. Then you're up on everybody else, but that's still going to be tough to do. This is going to be, if there's no Chris Godwin, I'm really interested to see. If there's no Chris Godwin, no Nick Chubb, and no Alvin Kamara, I'm expecting these ownership levels to be through the roof on all 3 of them. And wow, you're going to have to get really interested in to differentiate your lineup at that point.
I like this week, man, because it's leading everyone towards like a very similar roster construction. We're going to have a lot of stars and scrubs. We're going to have a lot of people paying down at running back and then trying to get up to like some, I mean, pretty similar plays, right? So this is like the dream scenario for GPPs this week. Let's talk about, go ahead. Do you have one more thing?
I was just gonna say the one interesting thing was, so if this happens and you can go down this road, let's paint that picture. I know that this isn't normally what this segment's about, and I know there's more about what
you and I both know where we co-host this segment, so it's all good.
I know, but you do a lot more of this with TJ Hernandez coming up next. But I was just gonna say, if you want to do all 3, and if this happens, no Godwin, no Chubb, and no Kamara, I would essentially, in my opinion, I know I already said Herbert, I would come off that game. I would come off the high chalk game, because that's now you're gonna, I mean, if you head down,
pick one or the other.
Yeah, you go down the Chargers Minnesota route. I mean, honestly, you might have one position of non-overlap, and at that point, just you're burn your money.
Yeah, it's more or less like, I think you have to pick one direction. You have to really attack some of these chalk running back plays or some of these chalk value plays, and then you have to figure out some sort of stack around it that's going to be a little bit more contrarian, or you have to go the opposite way and try and either build completely differently or have like basically the chalk stack with some other pieces around it that are a little bit less popular. If you end up anywhere in between, you're going to be holding hands with so many people this week, because it is going to be, I mean, every optimizer is going to be spitting out very specific roster constructions. So we have to figure out ways to get different. So tight end, lock of the week, we do have Pat Freiermuth at 5,100 versus Detroit. Yes. There's just so many good plays in this Steelers game that, I mean, this is just another one, right? Both these guys that we're talking about at tight end, we have Dan Arnold at 5,100 as well. Both these guys always kind of fall into the same bucket for me, but Freiermuth does feel like the superior option, at least this week. Am I wrong?
It's definitely right. I was gonna be ready to come off. I'm one of the biggest air fryer Muth fans. Have been saying it all year long, and was gonna say I'm gonna hesitate a little bit going forward because Eric Ebron is coming back, but now Chase Claypool is out, so that just offsets. Now you don't have to worry about it as much. It's not to the same level, but it's similar to Dalton Schultz worrying about Blake Jarwin, but that was before Michael Gallup came back, and now Jarwin is out, so Gallup isn't really going to be as major as effect on Schultz as you might have thought. So that's where I'm coming from for this. As Freiermuth is still the number 2 in the passing game right now. I know a lot of people are going to be looking at James Washington. I don't mind him as like a dart throw deep play, but I have a feeling a lot of people are going to try him because of the price, and maybe that takes him off the board depending on what his ownership is. But yeah, I think Freiermuth is a great play, and then I'll just take myself right into the next one. You know where I'm going on the next one. I've been going his way. I'm still waiting for the touchdown. He's turned into the new Jacoby Myers.
Well, it's great though because the price hasn't moved and he's still getting all the volume.
Exactly. Stop putting up 50, 60 yards every single week and just get in the damn end zone, Dan Arnold. And he's got a great situation to do it against the Colts this week. The Colts are one of the better matchups. Baltimore is always a great matchup for tight ends, but they're not in the slate, obviously. And Gesicki should smash tonight. Should. But yeah, against the Colts, if you don't have the Ravens on the slate, the Colts are a good one. Houston's a good one. But Dan Arnold at 5,100 is a nice play. Again, please just score this week, Dan. Come on.
That'd be nice. It's been nice, I guess, to get him at like 5K basically on FanDuel. He's 5,100 again. So both of these guys, I think that, again, like there's not really much to pay up for at tight end this week. We'll be talking about Kyle Pitts, I'm sure, throughout the rest of the week. But outside of that, there's really not a lot. So I like going down to either one of these guys. Your DST lock of the week, the Tampa Bay Bucks, 4,400 against Taylor Heineke and the Washington Football Team. We did find out that it doesn't look like we're getting Curtis Samuel back anytime soon, or at least it's looking like he could be headed back to the IR. But man, Tampa Bay, great spot again, especially if you're trying to leverage at all the Tom Brady stacks. Like even just playing the defense, sometimes that's enough.
Yeah, it really is. And that's what it comes down to is that I'm looking at defense. I don't mind if you want to get up to the Bills. I mean, it's the Jets. You're going for one of the best plays there, but 5,000. Whew, that's a lot for me to put on defense. But 600 is not a biggest gap if you might maneuver some things around. But Tampa Bay, yeah, against Heineke, as much as I'm going to have to take his jersey down at some point, Ryan Fitzpatrick maybe comes back. But the thing about Heineke is what I've been saying the entire year. For fantasy purposes, your starting quarterback, he has some good weeks, but it's the same thing that kills him. It's the same negative, is he's so aggressive and he does not know how to turn that off. He does not know how to not take chances and throw balls that he shouldn't and take the shots downfield and into tight coverage. And it leads to turnovers and it leads to sacks too, because he tries to extend plays. So love Heineke because he gives it all, but sometimes in the NFL, you can't. You got to learn to just turn it off sometimes. And he doesn't know how to turn it off. So Tampa Bay Buccaneers, absolutely, because they're also pushing the pace and they're going to force Heineke into these situations anyway.
All right, everyone out there, now that we have Jake's locks, I want you to pause this video. Let me know in the comments your lock of the week. Jake, you ready to build a FanDuel team, buddy?
I am ready to build a FanDuel team. I'm really interested. I've been playing with it a little bit just in the meantime, and I'm interested to see how this turns out. Oh my God. I think I might have my lineup at this point.
All right. Where are we starting? Where are we starting? Because I think that I know your strategy is like, let's jam in these running backs, and it's not wrong. I'm just like trying to, let's hear it.
Well, so what I was going to say for that is let's play this lineup. There's a reason I want to do it. Let's play this lineup with Ernest Johnson and Mark Ingram and go from there to say, like, look, these are going to be obvious locks. Let's put them in there and see what kind of a lineup turns out to look like, assuming that happens.
Man, this Mark Ingram thing, man, I did not think we were going to have to go down this route again. But man, it's not fun, but the volume's going to be there. If this scenario plays out, just starting with these guys, you can play whatever you want. So
you really can.
And you're going to know right away too, because like I've been trying to evolve. Like you talked about how like I don't like the free squares and all of that. I've been trying to evolve because on FanDuel specifically, like one of these guys gets in the box, you're literally there at the price. Like that's all you need. And if they get in the box twice, you're buried if you don't have them. So like that's the problem. Like it's more of like you're playing defense, right? Because you're not leveraging much, because even if you don't play one of these guys, like it's just such a good value that if they score, like you're just basically trying to fade that at that point. And that's really scary.
100%. No question about it.
All right, I want to hear your defense then, so I can at least picture what we're building here, since you already have it built.
Put Tampa Bay in there.
Okay, I like it. 4,400 for Tampa Bay is interesting, especially like you said, like Buffalo's all the way up at 5K, so like you save 600 just moving down to Tampa Bay, and like a really strong spot also. So 7,400 the rest of the way.
I know that's the really interesting thing. So we got Ingram. It's okay. So let's do the Dak. Let's put Dak at quarterback. Let's go because it's the chalk thing. So I want to get off. I know this might be chalk for some people too. Well, again, we're gonna have to watch rostership here. We're gonna have to see what happens. But let's get off the Herbert, and that's because of where I wanted to go with this.
Okay. So we got Dak. Who are we stacking Dak with?
Both Cooper and Lamb. Put them both in there.
All right. Cooper and Lamb. What do you think about the Michael Gallup impact on this? Do you think this hurts Schultz more than one of these wide receivers, or do you think it's like specifically
because Jarwin's out now? I don't.
So there's not much changes then, you think?
I don't think, especially Gallup's first game back.
All right.
I mean, it leans me a little bit off of getting to Schultz, but
the only reason I mentioned is Gallup is like so cheap. Like that's like if we wanted to even triple this, we could, but we don't really need the value on this team, man. 7,200 still the rest of the way.
Yeah, Gallup falls into the conversation of the James Washington thing too. I know people are going to be thinking about it as well.
I like James Washington a little bit better for maybe a little bit of leverage because those Pittsburgh guys are going to be so chalky, man.
So let's get that Mike Evans piece in there. I'm okay with that because that's another.
Got Evans in there. So we have 7,100 left for tight end and flex. So unless you're like going all the way up at running back, like we could probably play Kyle Pitts on this team unless you wanted to. I mean, if you just want, I guess let's see. If you end up playing the Freiermuth or Dan Arnold, you have 9,100 left at running back. So.
I know. Well, what I was, which is kind of appealing, but bring back Dallas with Cordell Patterson. Honestly,
you could do that. You're turning it into a GPP, bro, with all these bringbacks.
You have to bring it back with Cordell Patterson. I kind of wanted to go Najee Harris, but for the bring back, it has to be Cordell. I mean, it's a moderate size GPP, and also again, this is with the strategy of trying to differentiate. So, what does it leave as a tight end?
Dalton Schultz, basically triple stack.
I kind of I don't really want Dalton Schultz.
Well, then we got to make a move here on either.
We
could move down.
You know what
defense.
we could do? Put the Bills in. That differentiates.
Could do that, and then we get to that range that you like at tight end, essentially 5,800.
Put in Dawson Knox if he plays, and then come off Dawson Knox if not, and then you still have Logan Thomas in play.
We got Hunter Henry. All he does is score touchdowns. We got
Freiermuth. Freiermuth would save us, and you'd have a lot left on the table to go somewhere else as well too.
Yeah, the only thing, I guess my only concern about this lineup across the board is we have all 1 p.m. players. So the 4 p.m. games so far, we have Carolina, Arizona, we have Minnesota, LAC, we have Philly and Denver, and we Seattle and Green Bay. So like that's like somewhat of an argument in favor of like maybe I guess moving this around a little bit more. Like we have Patterson in here. I don't think you have to force the bring back on this one, and there's all the salary in the world. So let me toy with this for a second. You can tell me if you don't like it. So we got I'm putting Tampa Bay back in here. And then I wanted to see what it leaves us if we go Kyle Pitts, because that gives us 7,300 in the flex. So I guess if we didn't get up to Patterson, that leaves us with like Swift, Keenan Allen, Michael Pittman. It's not the best range. So if we wanted to move up,
if you put Freiermuth back, you know what you could do is you could put Freiermuth back in there and then get Christian McCaffrey in place of Cordero Patterson.
That's the direction I thought you were going, is Freiermuth and CMC. So let's go back to that. Too. I might like that 2v2
Jack
better.
Cooper, Lamb, Evans, Freiermuth.
Why can't I spell Freiermuth ever? There we go. All right, and that was that with Bills or Tampa? I forget what we needed there. Let's throw in CMC. Yep, Tampa Bay. I think this is a better 2v2 personally.